Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. I'm here to help you discover how timeless Stoic philosophy can transform your daily challenges into opportunities for growth, resilience, and unshakable inner strength. You wake up each morning facing a world that seems designed to test your limits. Your phone buzzes with urgent emails before you've even had coffee. Traffic jams stretch your commute into a stress-filled marathon. Deadlines pile up like storm clouds, and unexpected setbacks seem to strike just when you think you've got everything under control. Sound familiar? Here's what the ancient Stoics understood over 2,000 years ago. The strongest people aren't those who never face adversity. They're the ones who've learned to build mental toughness through every challenge life throws their way. Today, we're diving deep into the most practical and powerful approaches these ancient philosophers developed for creating unshakable mental strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who faced plagues, wars, and betrayals, wrote in his personal journal, "The mind that pursues the right way turns every obstacle into material for its own exercise." Seneca, who survived exile and court intrigue, taught that we must treat the body rigorously so that it's not disobedient to the mind. Epictetus, who overcame slavery and physical disability, revealed the fundamental secret: learning what's truly within our control and what isn't. These weren't armchair philosophers theorizing about life from comfortable libraries. They were people facing real pressures, real dangers, and real consequences. Yet they developed practical tools that transformed them into some of history's most resilient individuals. Their insights work just as powerfully today in boardrooms, traffic jams, and family crises as they did in ancient Rome. Over the next sections, we'll explore 7 specific ways to build the kind of mental toughness that doesn't crack under pressure. You'll discover how to turn every daily struggle into strength training for your mind. We'll uncover the ancient practice of learning from history's greatest minds that takes just minutes a day but compounds into extraordinary wisdom. You'll learn the perspective shift that instantly transforms problems into opportunities, and how physical challenges create mental breakthroughs. We'll dive into the foundational Stoic principle that revolutionizes how you spend your mental energy, explore how real confidence comes from daily practice rather than positive thinking, and finally, understand how to create an unshakable foundation that supports everything else in your life. Each of these concepts builds on the others, creating a comprehensive system for developing true mental toughness. This isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent to life's beauty. It's about developing the inner strength to thrive regardless of external circumstances, to find opportunities in obstacles, and to maintain your values and vision even when everything around you seems chaotic. The Stoics believed that while we can't control what happens to us, we have complete control over how we respond. That response, that choice of perspective, action, and attitude is where real power lives. Today, we're going to learn exactly how to claim that power for yourself. Ready to build unshakable mental toughness? Let's begin. 1. Turn every challenge into strength training. You're running late for an important meeting when your car won't start. The battery's dead, your phone is at 15%, and there's no rideshare available for 20 minutes. Your heart rate spikes as you calculate how this will cascade into your entire day falling apart. Most people would see this as pure misfortune, a day ruined before it began. But what if I told you this moment is actually a gift? The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote something remarkable in his letters from a Stoic that completely reframes how we should view these situations. I pity the person who has never been through adversity because they haven't had a chance to prove themselves. Think about that for a moment. Seneca isn't saying adversity is unfortunate. He's saying the absence of adversity is what we should pity. Here's why this ancient insight is revolutionary for modern life. Every challenge you face is actually a training session for your mental strength. Just like lifting weights builds physical muscle through resistance, encountering difficulties builds mental muscle through overcoming obstacles. The person who never faces resistance never develops strength. Consider this scenario. You're working on a project that requires skills you don't currently possess. You could choose the easy path, delegate it to someone else, avoid the learning curve, stay comfortable. Or you could recognize this as an opportunity to deliberately seek out difficulty that's within your control. The Stoics understood that while some adversity will find us whether we want it or not, we become strongest when we actively seek out challenges that test our limits. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire during plague, war, and constant political pressure, asked himself a powerful question in his meditations. How will you meet the adversity of tomorrow? His answer was equally powerful. With the same weapons that you had today. But here's the crucial part. Those weapons must be sharpened and strengthened before tomorrow arrives. This is why you see successful people deliberately choosing difficult paths. They wake up before dawn not because they have to, but because they want to prove to themselves they can override their body's desire for comfort. They take on projects that stretch their capabilities not because it's easy, but because it builds their confidence in handling the unknown. They have difficult conversations not because they enjoy conflict, but because they're training their courage muscle. Let's make this practical for your daily life. When you're faced with two options, the comfortable choice and the challenging one, the Stoic approach is to ask, which choice will make me stronger? Not which is easier, not which is more pleasant, but which builds the mental muscles you'll need for bigger challenges ahead. Imagine you're in a coffee shop and the barista gets your order completely wrong. You have two handles to grab this situation by, as Epictetus would say. The first handle is frustration. You paid for something specific, your time is valuable, this is incompetent service. The second handle is training. This is a perfect opportunity to practice patience, clear communication, and maintaining your inner peace regardless of external circumstances. The person seeking mental toughness chooses the second handle. Not because they're passive or don't care about quality service, but because they recognize every interaction as a chance to strengthen their character. They respond calmly, communicate clearly what they need, and maintain their emotional equilibrium. They leave that coffee shop slightly stronger than when they entered. This principle scales up to major life challenges. When you lose a job, you can see it as a devastating setback or as an opportunity to prove your resilience and discover capabilities you didn't know you had. When a relationship ends, you can view it as a failure or as training for deeper self-understanding and emotional strength. When health challenges arise, you can see them as unfair burdens or as chances to develop courage and perspective that will serve you for the rest of your life. Seneca took this concept so seriously that he would regularly practice voluntary discomfort. He would sleep on the floor, eat simple foods, and wear basic clothing not as punishment, but as training. He wanted to prove to himself that his happiness and peace of mind weren't dependent on external comforts. When real hardship came, and it inevitably did, he was prepared. You can apply this same principle without extreme measures. Choose the stairs instead of the elevator. Take cold showers. Have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Tackle the project that intimidates you. Each time you choose the harder path when an easier one is available, you're building what Seneca called the weapons you'll need for tomorrow's challenges. Here's what happens when you start viewing challenges as training. Your relationship with difficulty completely transforms. Instead of dreading problems, you begin to see them as opportunities to practice skills you'll need later. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you start feeling like an athlete in training. The same event that would have derailed your day becomes fuel for your growth. Marcus Aurelius understood this so deeply that he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't positive thinking or denial of real problems. It's the recognition that mental strength, like physical strength, is built through progressive overload, gradually increasing the weight until what once seemed impossible becomes routine. The beautiful paradox of this approach is that by seeking out difficulty, you actually make your life easier in the long run. The person who has trained themselves to handle stress, uncertainty, and setbacks navigates life's inevitable challenges with grace and confidence. They've done the work ahead of time. Building on this foundation of deliberate challenge-seeking, we can now explore how the ancient Stoics discovered another powerful source of strength and wisdom that takes just minutes a day but compounds into extraordinary mental resilience. 2. Learn from history's greatest minds daily. You're sitting in your living room on a Sunday morning, coffee in hand, scrolling through social media. Everyone seems to be living perfect lives, achieving incredible success, or offering opinions about everything under the sun. The noise is overwhelming, and you close the app feeling more confused about life than when you started. What if there was a different way to spend those precious quiet moments? The ancient Stoic philosopher Zeno discovered something extraordinary that changed not just his life, but the entire course of philosophy. As a young man, he visited the oracle at Delphi and received a cryptic prophecy. You will become wise when you begin to have conversations with the dead. Like most oracle pronouncements, this seemed mysterious and impossible. How do you talk to people who no longer exist? Years later, Zeno realized what the oracle meant. Through reading, we can literally access the minds of people who lived centuries or even millennia ago. When you open Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, you're getting direct access to the private thoughts of a man who ruled the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. When you read Seneca's letters, you're receiving personal guidance from someone who survived political exile, court intrigue, and the volatile reign of Emperor Nero. This isn't just historical curiosity. It's a practical superpower for modern life. Consider this scenario. You're facing a decision about whether to take a risky career move. You could ask friends, research online forums, or hire a consultant. Or you could consult with some of history's most tested minds who faced similar crossroads under far more challenging circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations while camping with his armies on the frontiers of the empire, dealing with plague, rebellion, and the constant pressure of life and death decisions. His thoughts weren't theoretical, they were survival tools forged in the crucible of real experience. When he writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He's sharing wisdom earned through managing an empire while the world seemed to be falling apart around him. Think about what this means for your daily challenges. That difficult conversation with your boss? Marcus Aurelius managed senators who could have him assassinated. Your concerns about financial security? Seneca lost his fortune multiple times and had to rebuild from nothing. Your struggles with disappointing people. Epictetus was born into slavery and had to find dignity and purpose despite having no control over his circumstances. Here's how to make this practical. Instead of starting your day by checking your phone and filling your mind with the anxieties and opinions of the moment, spend 10 minutes reading from these ancient sources, not as academic study, but as a morning conversation with mentors who have already walked through every type of challenge you'll face. Let's say you're dealing with a frustrating coworker who takes credit for your ideas. You open Seneca's letters and find him writing to his friend Lucilius. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks the truth turns steadily to the things that are eternal. Suddenly, you have perspective. This workplace drama, which felt all-consuming an hour ago, is just another temporary disturbance. Seneca reminds you to focus on what truly matters, your character, your growth, your contribution, rather than getting caught up in office politics. Or imagine you're struggling with self-doubt about a project you're passionate about. You turn to Epictetus and read, "No one can hurt you without your permission. No one can diminish you without your consent." This isn't motivational fluff from someone who never faced real challenges. This is wisdom from a man who overcame physical disability and social marginalization to become one of history's most influential teachers. The beauty of this practice is how it compounds over time. Each morning conversation with these ancient minds deposits wisdom into your mental bank account. When challenges arise, and they always do, you find yourself drawing on insights that have been tested across centuries and cultures. You're not just relying on your limited personal experience. You're accessing a vast library of human wisdom. Consider the difference between scrolling through social media and reading Marcus Aurelius. Social media fills your mind with the temporary concerns, opinions, and anxieties of people who are often struggling with the same problems you are. Reading Marcus Aurelius connects you with someone who successfully navigated being the most powerful person in the world while maintaining his philosophical principles and personal integrity. This practice becomes even more powerful when you realize that these weren't perfect people living charmed lives. Marcus Aurelius struggled with difficult family members, health problems, and the burden of enormous responsibility. Seneca made mistakes, faced criticism, and had to rebuild his reputation multiple times. Epictetus lived with physical limitations and social constraints that would challenge anyone. Yet they developed frameworks for thinking about life that helped them not just survive, but thrive and contribute meaningfully to the world. Their insights weren't born from privilege or ease, but from facing the same fundamental human challenges we all encounter, just under different circumstances. Here's what happens when you make this a daily practice. You start to see patterns in how resilient people think and respond to challenges. You begin to recognize that the problems you're facing aren't unique or insurmountable. They're part of the human experience that wise people have been successfully navigating for thousands of years. Your perspective shifts from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "How can I grow from this experience?" You stop feeling isolated in your struggles and start feeling connected to a timeless community of people who have faced similar challenges with courage and wisdom. The ancient Stoics understood that wisdom isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate through regular exposure to great thinking. By having these daily conversations with history's greatest minds, you're not just learning philosophy. You're training your mind to think with the clarity and perspective that comes from centuries of tested wisdom. This leads us naturally to consider how this enhanced perspective allows us to see opportunities where others see only problems. 3. See opportunities where others see problems. You're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the freeway, watching the minutes tick by as your important appointment time approaches. Your hands grip the steering wheel tighter, your jaw clenches, and frustration builds with each passing second. The GPS keeps recalculating, adding more time to your already late arrival. Everyone around you seems trapped in the same metal prison, engines idling, tempers rising. This is clearly a disaster, right? But here's where perspective becomes everything. If you've ever flown over a major city at night, you've witnessed something remarkable. That same traffic that feels chaotic and maddening from street level transforms into something beautiful from above, streams of light flowing through the darkness like arteries carrying the lifeblood of human activity. It's the same phenomenon, the same collection of cars and people, but from a different vantage point, it becomes something entirely different. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus understood this principle so deeply that he built an entire framework around it. He taught that every situation has two handles, one that will bear weight and support you, and another that will break under pressure and leave you worse off. The critical skill, he argued, is learning to grab the right handle every single time. Consider this scenario. You're preparing for a presentation that could advance your career, and an hour before it begins, you discover that your main competitor will also be presenting. Your initial reaction might be panic. This ruins everything. The odds just got worse. Maybe you should reschedule. That's grabbing the situation by the handle that won't support you. But what if you grabbed the other handle? Suddenly, this becomes an opportunity to see exactly what you're up against, to differentiate your approach in real time, and to demonstrate how you perform under pressure. The presence of competition could actually make your presentation stronger and more memorable. Same situation, different handle, completely different outcome. Marcus Aurelius, who faced constant challenges as emperor, wrote in his personal notes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This wasn't theoretical philosophy for him. He was managing an empire during plague outbreaks, barbarian invasions, and political upheaval. He had to find the productive handle on seemingly impossible situations or watch everything collapse. Let's make this practical for modern life. Imagine you're at work and your department's budget gets cut by 30%. You could grab this situation by the disaster handle, start worrying about job security, complain about management decisions, feel sorry for yourself and your team. Or you could grab it by the opportunity handle. This forces innovation, eliminates wasteful spending, and proves which team members can adapt and create value under constraints. The person who chooses the opportunity to handle starts asking different questions. What can we accomplish with fewer resources that we couldn't do before? How can these limitations spark creativity? What unnecessary complexity can we eliminate? They begin to see the budget cut not as a punishment, but as clarity about what really matters. This shift in perspective isn't about denial or false positivity. When your flight gets canceled during a family vacation, you're not pretending it's wonderful news. You're recognizing that this unexpected time could become an adventure. Exploring the airport city you never would have visited, having unplanned conversations with your family, and discovering how you handle disruption together. You're choosing to grab the handle that allows you to carry this experience forward productively. Epictetus knew something that modern psychology has confirmed. Our emotional response to events isn't determined by the events themselves, but by how we interpret them. Two people can experience identical circumstances and have completely different emotional outcomes based on which handle they choose to grab. Here's a powerful example. You apply for a position you really want and don't get it. The rejection handle makes this about personal inadequacy, closed doors, and wasted effort. The opportunity to handle makes this about gathering information for next time, confirming you're aiming at the right level of challenge, and possibly avoiding a situation that wouldn't have been the right fit anyway. The most resilient people develop what we might call handle instincts. They automatically look for the perspective that serves them best. When faced with criticism, they grab the handle that focuses on useful feedback rather than a personal attack. When encountering setbacks, they grab the handle that reveals what they can learn rather than what they've lost. This becomes particularly powerful during major life transitions. You're going through a divorce and you could grab this by the failure handle, seeing it as evidence that you're bad at relationships, that you've wasted years, that your future is uncertain. Or you could grab it by the growth handle, recognizing this as an opportunity to rediscover who you are as an individual, to apply lessons learned, and to build a life more aligned with your authentic values. The ancient Stoics practiced this perspective shift so deliberately that it became second nature. They understood that external circumstances are largely beyond our control, but our interpretation of those circumstances, which handle we choose, is entirely within our power. Here's what happens when you develop this skill. Problems stop feeling like personal attacks from the universe and start feeling like puzzles to solve. Setbacks become information rather than verdicts. Challenges become opportunities to demonstrate your growth rather than evidence of your limitations. You start to notice that the people who seem naturally resilient aren't actually facing fewer difficulties. They're just consistently better at grabbing the productive handle. They've trained themselves to ask, "How can I use this?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" The traffic jam becomes thinking time. The canceled meeting becomes an opportunity to prepare more thoroughly. The difficult conversation becomes practice for handling conflict with grace. The unexpected expense becomes motivation to examine and improve your financial habits. This perspective mastery creates a foundation for the next essential element of mental toughness: understanding how physical challenges create mental breakthroughs. For build mental power through physical action. You're standing at the edge of a cold lake on a winter morning, watching your breath form clouds in the frigid air. Every fiber of your being is screaming at you to turn around, get back in the warm car, and find a heated indoor pool instead. Your body is convinced this is a terrible idea, but you take a deep breath and step into the icy water anyway, feeling the shock of cold hit your system like a bolt of lightning. In that moment, something profound happens. You've just overruled your body's most primitive instincts through the power of your mind. You've demonstrated to yourself that when your thoughts and your physical sensations are in conflict, your mind can win. This isn't just about cold tolerance. It's about building the fundamental relationship between mental command and physical response that determines how you handle every challenge in life. Seneca, the Roman Stoic who advised emperors and survived political exile, understood this connection so clearly that he made it a cornerstone of his philosophy. He wrote, "We treat the body rigorously so that it is not disobedient to the mind." Think about the profound implications of that statement. Seneca wasn't advocating punishment or self-denial. He was describing a training relationship where the mind learns to direct and the body learns to respond. Consider this everyday scenario. Your alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m. for an early workout. Your body immediately begins negotiating. It's still dark. The bed is warm, you could exercise later, you need more sleep. This isn't just about fitness. It's about who's in charge of your life. When you get up despite your body's protests, you're practicing the most fundamental skill of mental toughness. The ability to act on your decisions rather than your impulses. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire while dealing with constant military campaigns and political pressure, wrote about this principle in his personal journal. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. He understood that the simple act of overriding physical comfort builds the mental muscle needed for every other decision throughout the day. Here's why this works. Every time you choose discomfort when comfort is available, you're proving to yourself that you have power over your circumstances. You're building evidence that you can handle difficult situations, push through resistance, and maintain your standards even when it's hard. This evidence becomes the foundation of unshakable confidence. Let's make this practical for your daily life. You're in the middle of a challenging project at work, and your mind starts looking for escape routes. You could check social media, grab another coffee, reorganize your desk, anything to avoid the mental strain of difficult problem solving. But if you've trained yourself through physical challenges, you recognize this feeling. It's the same voice that tells you to skip the workout, avoid the cold shower, or take the elevator instead of the stairs. The person who has developed physical and mental training recognizes this as an opportunity to practice mental command. Instead of following the impulse to escape, they lean into the discomfort of sustained thinking. They've learned through physical training that discomfort is temporary and that pushing through it builds capacity. Epictetus, who overcame physical disability to become one of history's most influential teachers, taught that we must train ourselves to distinguish between what our body wants and what our mind decides. He lived this principle daily, never allowing his physical limitations to dictate his mental or spiritual growth. His life demonstrated that mental strength can triumph over any physical circumstance. Here's a powerful way to apply this. When you're facing a situation that requires courage, having a difficult conversation, making a risky career move, standing up for your principles, your body will flood you with stress signals. Your heart rate increases, your palms sweat, and your stomach tightens. These physical sensations often convince people to avoid action. But if you've trained yourself to act despite physical discomfort, you recognize these sensations differently. Instead of seeing them as stop signs, you see them as information. Your body is simply doing its job of alerting you to challenge, but your trained mind remains in command of your decisions. This training can be as simple as choosing stairs over elevators, taking cold showers instead of hot ones, or finishing every workout you start, regardless of how you feel in the middle. Each choice builds the neural pathway between mental decision and physical follow-through. The compound effect is remarkable. You start to notice that the voice trying to talk you out of hard physical choices is the same voice that tries to talk you out of hard life choices. The muscle you build by getting up early transfers to the muscle needed to have tough conversations. The discipline you develop through consistent exercise becomes the discipline you apply to consistent work habits. Seneca took this so seriously that he regularly practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on hard surfaces, eating simple foods, wearing basic clothing, not as self-punishment, but as training for the inevitable times when comfort wouldn't be available. He wanted to prove to himself that his peace of mind wasn't dependent on external conditions. You don't need to practice extreme discomfort to gain these benefits. The key is consistency in small challenges that prove your mind's authority over your body's immediate preferences. Every time you choose the harder physical option when an easier one is available, you're making a deposit in your mental toughness account. Here's what happens over time. Physical challenges stop feeling like punishment and start feeling like empowerment. You begin to associate temporary discomfort with personal growth. Most importantly, you develop unshakable confidence that you can handle whatever life demands because you've trained yourself to overcome resistance in its most basic form. The beautiful paradox is that by making yourself comfortable with discomfort, you actually make your life more comfortable. When challenges arise, you meet them with the calm confidence of someone who has already proven they can handle hard things. With this foundation of mental-physical mastery established, we can now explore how to focus this enhanced mental power on what truly deserves your energy and attention. 5. Focus your energy on what actually matters. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., your mind racing through an endless loop of worries. Your boss seemed annoyed during today's meeting. Does that mean you're in trouble? Your teenager barely spoke at dinner. Are they angry about something? The economy seems unstable. Should you be worried about your job security? Gas prices keep rising. Your neighbor hasn't returned your lawn mower. And did you remember to pay that credit card bill? Round and round your thoughts go, burning mental energy on a mixture of things you can control, things you can't, and things that may not even be real problems. This mental spinning is exactly what the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus identified as the root of human suffering. He taught what may be the most powerful principle for mental clarity ever discovered. Some things are within our power, while others are not. This sounds almost ridiculously simple until you realize that most people spend their entire lives confused about which is which. Epictetus broke this down into the most fundamental question you can ask about any situation. Is this up to me or not up to me? Your boss's mood? Not up to you. How you prepare for meetings and communicate your ideas? Completely up to you. Your teenager's every emotion and response? Not up to you. How you create a welcoming environment for conversation and model emotional maturity? Entirely up to you. Consider this scenario. You're working on a presentation for a potential client that could significantly impact your career. You could spend your mental energy worrying about whether they'll like your ideas, what your competitors might be proposing, whether the decision makers will be in a good mood that day, or what market conditions might influence their budget. All of that worry accomplishes exactly nothing because none of it is within your control. Or you could channel that same mental energy into what is within your control. Researching their specific needs, crafting compelling content, practicing your delivery, preparing thoughtful questions, and developing a clear follow-up strategy. Same situation, but you're investing your mental resources where they can actually create results. Marcus Aurelius, who managed the Roman Empire during some of its most challenging periods, understood this principle so deeply that he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He knew that ruling an empire required absolute clarity about where to direct his attention and energy. He couldn't afford to waste mental resources on things beyond his influence when so many crucial decisions demanded his focus. Here's where this becomes practical for modern life. Every moment you spend mentally arguing with reality, resenting things that have already happened, or worrying about outcomes you can't influence is mental energy that could be applied to actions that actually matter. It's like running your car engine while parked. You're burning fuel without moving forward. Let's say you're stuck in traffic because of an accident ahead. You have two choices for how to spend your mental energy. You could focus on things not up to you, when the traffic will clear, whether other drivers are being stupid, why this always happens when you're running late, how this might affect your day. This approach guarantees frustration without improving anything. Or you could focus on what is up to you, how you use this unexpected time, whether you call ahead to notify people you'll be late, what you can learn from this experience about building buffer time into your schedule, or simply how you choose to respond emotionally to situations beyond your control. This approach transforms dead time into productive time and builds your resilience for future challenges. Epictetus taught this principle so consistently that it became known as the fundamental insight of Stoicism. He would tell his students, "You are not your body, you are not your reputation, you are not your possessions. You are your capacity to choose your responses. Everything else, health, wealth, other people's opinions, external circumstances, falls into the category of not up to you." This doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes or stop trying to influence positive results. It means you invest your energy where it can actually make a difference. You prepare thoroughly for the job interview, up to you, without spending mental energy on whether the interviewer likes your personality, not up to you. You maintain your health through good habits, up to you, without worrying obsessively about every possible health risk, not up to you. Here's what happens when you master this distinction. Your mental clarity increases dramatically because you stop wasting cognitive resources on unsolvable problems. Your stress decreases because you're no longer fighting battles you can't win. Your effectiveness increases because all your energy goes toward actions that can actually create change. Think about someone you know who seems unusually calm and focused during chaotic situations. They've likely developed this skill either through experience or instinct. They don't ignore problems, but they automatically sort them into actionable and not actionable categories, then direct their attention accordingly. The Serenity Prayer, familiar to many people in recovery programs, captures this same wisdom. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The Stoics would say that wisdom, knowing the difference, is the most crucial element. This principle becomes especially powerful during major life transitions or crises. When you lose a job, you can't control the circumstances that led to the loss, the timing, or how others perceive the situation. But you can completely control how you use this transition, whether you treat it as a disaster or an opportunity to reassess your career direction, develop new skills, or explore options you might not have considered otherwise. The ancient Stoics understood that mental energy is like physical energy. It's finite and precious. Every minute you spend mentally wrestling with things beyond your control is a minute not spent on the actions, attitudes, and choices that could actually improve your situation. Building on this foundation of focused mental energy, we can now explore how to develop the authentic confidence that comes from consistent daily practice rather than wishful thinking. 6. Develop real confidence through daily practice. You're standing outside the conference room where you're about to give the most important presentation of your career. Your palms are sweaty, your heart is pounding, and that familiar voice in your head is listing every possible way this could go wrong. Everyone else seems so naturally confident. They must have some magical quality you're missing, right? You take a deep breath and try to think positive thoughts. But the anxiety remains. Here's what the ancient Stoics understood about confidence that modern self-help often gets wrong. Real confidence isn't a feeling you manufacture through positive thinking or affirmations. It's evidence you accumulate through repeated action. When you truly know you can handle something, your body and mind naturally relax because the proof already exists. Consider the wisdom of Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, who once observed that astronauts aren't naturally braver than other people. They're simply meticulously prepared. When you've practiced emergency procedures thousands of times, simulated every possible scenario, and built the skills needed for each challenge, confidence becomes automatic. It's not courage born from ignorance. It's calm certainty born from preparation. The Stoic philosophers applied this same principle to every area of life. Seneca, who survived political exile and the volatile reign of Emperor Nero, didn't maintain his composure through wishful thinking. He built it through daily practices that strengthened his mental and emotional responses. When real tests came, he had evidence of his own resilience to draw upon. Let's make this practical for your daily life. Imagine you're nervous about having a difficult conversation with a family member about boundaries. You could try to pump yourself up with motivational quotes, or you could build real confidence through practice. Start with smaller boundary conversations with salespeople, coworkers, or service representatives. Each successful interaction where you clearly communicate your needs builds evidence that you can handle increasingly difficult conversations. This is how authentic confidence compounds, through incremental proof that you can do what you set out to do. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, waking up when your alarm goes off, completing a workout you started, finishing a project on deadline, you're making a deposit in your confidence account. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you're making a withdrawal. Marcus Aurelius understood this so clearly that he wrote in his personal journal, "Be like a rocky promontory on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." He wasn't describing natural fearlessness. He was describing the stability that comes from proven resilience. The promontory is confident in storms because it has weathered countless storms before. Here's a powerful example. You want to feel confident about your ability to handle financial challenges. You could read books about money management and repeat affirmations about abundance, but real confidence comes from demonstrating actual financial competence. Start by successfully managing a small emergency fund. Then handle a minor unexpected expense without panic. Practice living below your means for a month. Each success builds evidence that you can navigate financial challenges with wisdom and grace. The ancient Stoics practiced this principle through what they called disciplines, not punishments, but training routines that built specific capabilities. Epictetus, who overcame slavery and physical disability to become one of history's most influential teachers, taught his students to practice small acts of self-discipline daily, not because he wanted to make their lives difficult, but because he wanted to give them evidence of their own strength. Consider this scenario. You're anxious about public speaking, so you decide to build real confidence through progressive practice. You start by speaking up once in every meeting you attend. Then you volunteer to give a brief report to your team. Next, you join a local speaking group where you can practice in a supportive environment. Each successful experience builds evidence that you can communicate effectively in front of others. This approach is fundamentally different from fake-it-till-you-make-it strategies. You're not pretending to be confident. You're building the actual skills and track record that create natural confidence. When you finally give that important presentation, your calm isn't based on hope. It's based on evidence that you've successfully communicated your ideas to groups many times before. Seneca took this principle so seriously that he regularly practiced voluntary challenges specifically to build evidence of his capabilities. He would deliberately put himself in difficult situations, not as self-punishment, but as confidence training. He wanted to know, not hope, that he could handle whatever life might demand. Here's what happens when you build confidence through evidence rather than emotion. It becomes unshakable. External circumstances might change, other people might doubt you, and unexpected challenges might arise, but your confidence remains stable because it's based on demonstrated competence rather than fluctuating feelings. The athlete who has practiced the game-winning shot thousands of times approaches the crucial moment with calm focus, not nervous hope. The surgeon who has performed hundreds of similar procedures maintains steady hands during complex operations. The parent who has navigated numerous family crises responds to new challenges with wisdom earned through experience. You can apply this same principle to any area where you want to develop confidence. Want to feel confident in social situations? Practice small talk with cashiers and service workers until it becomes natural. Want confidence in your creative abilities? Complete small projects consistently until you have a portfolio of finished work. Want confidence in your leadership skills? Start by successfully leading small initiatives and build from there. The beautiful paradox of this approach is that by focusing on building capability rather than feeling confident, you end up with both. Real competence creates natural confidence. When you know you can handle something because you've done it before, anxiety transforms into focused energy. This evidence-based confidence becomes the foundation for the final element we need to explore: how all these practices integrate to create an unshakable foundation that supports everything else in your life. 7. Create an unshakable foundation for life. You're going through one of those periods where everything seems to hit at once. Your industry is experiencing major changes that threaten job security. A close family member is dealing with serious health issues. Your relationship is going through a rough patch. Financial pressures are mounting. In the past, any one of these challenges would have knocked you off balance for weeks. But something is different now. While you're certainly concerned and actively addressing each situation, you're not falling apart. There's a steady core inside you that remains calm and clear-headed regardless of external chaos. This is what the ancient Stoics called the inner citadel, an unshakable foundation of mental strength that no external circumstance can breach. Marcus Aurelius, who faced plague, war, political betrayal, and personal tragedy while ruling the Roman Empire, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't philosophical theory for him. It was a survival strategy for maintaining effectiveness and sanity while the world seemed to crumble around him. The foundation we're talking about isn't built through a single dramatic transformation. It's constructed through the daily integration of every principle we've explored. When you consistently turn challenges into strength training, learn from history's greatest minds, grab situations by the productive handle, build mental power through physical action, focus energy on controllables, and develop evidence-based confidence, something remarkable happens. These individual practices compound into an integrated system of mental resilience. Consider this scenario. You receive news that your company is restructuring and your position might be eliminated. In the past, this would have triggered a cascade of panic, sleepless nights, and scattered thinking. But now, having built this foundation, your response is fundamentally different. You immediately recognize this as another form of adversity training, difficult, but not devastating. You grab this situation by the handle that asks, how can I use this transition to my advantage? Instead of spending mental energy on things you can't control, the company's financial decisions, the timeline of changes, or what colleagues might think, you focus entirely on what is within your influence. You update your skills, strengthen your professional network, and explore opportunities you might not have considered while comfortable in your previous role. Your confidence remains stable because it's built on evidence of your ability to adapt and create value, not on the security of any particular job. Epictetus, who understood what it meant to have no control over external circumstances, taught that true freedom comes from building something inside yourself that no external force can touch. You are not your body, he would tell his students. You are not your possessions, you are not your reputation. You are your capacity to choose your responses. This capacity, this power of conscious choice, becomes your unshakable foundation. Here's how this integration works in practice. Imagine you're dealing with a serious relationship conflict. Your partner has expressed deep frustrations, and you're facing the possibility that this relationship might not survive. The foundational approach doesn't guarantee the outcome you want, but it guarantees that you'll handle whatever happens with dignity and wisdom. You treat this challenge as strength training, recognizing that navigating difficult relationships with grace is a skill that will serve you throughout life. You consult the wisdom of those who faced similar challenges, not just modern relationship advice, but the timeless insights about human nature, communication, and personal responsibility that the Stoics developed through centuries of observation. You grab this situation by the constructive handle, asking what you can learn about yourself, how you can grow as a partner and person, and what this experience reveals about your values and priorities. You focus your energy entirely on what you can control: your own communication, behavior, and responses, rather than trying to control your partner's feelings or decisions. The physical and mental discipline you've built through daily practice gives you the emotional stability to stay present and thoughtful rather than reactive. Your confidence, built through evidence of handling difficult situations before, allows you to remain open to feedback and growth rather than defensive and closed. Marcus Aurelius faced personal betrayals, family tragedies, and the enormous pressure of leading an empire during crisis after crisis. What sustained him wasn't the absence of problems. It was the presence of a philosophical framework that remained stable regardless of external circumstances. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This reflects someone who had built an internal foundation stronger than any external pressure. This foundation becomes especially powerful during major life transitions. Whether you're dealing with career changes, health challenges, relationship shifts, financial pressures, or family crises, you meet each situation from a place of inner stability rather than reactive chaos. You're not immune to difficulty or emotional impact, but you're not at the mercy of circumstances either. Here's what people notice about those who have built this foundation. They seem to possess an unusual calm during storms that would overwhelm others. They make clear decisions under pressure. They maintain their values and principles even when it would be easier to compromise. They learn and grow from setbacks rather than being diminished by them. This isn't because they're naturally superior or blessed with easier lives. It's because they've systematically built the mental and emotional infrastructure that supports resilience. Like a building with a strong foundation can weather earthquakes that would topple weaker structures, a person with this inner foundation can handle disruptions that would devastate someone without these developed capabilities. The ancient Stoics understood that while we can't control what happens to us, we have complete sovereignty over our responses. That response, how we interpret events, where we direct our attention, what actions we choose, and what meaning we create, is the one area of absolute freedom and power that no external force can breach. This foundation doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger. It doesn't eliminate challenges, but it transforms your relationship with challenge from victim to participant, from sufferer to student, from reactor to creator. Ultimately, this unshakable foundation allows you to engage fully with life while remaining anchored in wisdom that transcends any particular circumstance. You started this journey understanding that life is unpredictable, that challenges are inevitable, and that mental toughness isn't optional, it's essential. Now you have the complete framework that the ancient Stoics used to build unshakable resilience in the face of whatever life could throw at them. You've learned to transform every daily struggle into strength training, recognizing that voluntary challenges prepare you for involuntary ones. You've discovered how to have daily conversations with history's greatest minds, accessing wisdom that has been tested across centuries and cultures. You've mastered the art of grabbing situations by the productive handle, seeing opportunities where others see only problems. You understand how physical challenges build mental power, proving to yourself that your mind can override your body's immediate preferences. You've learned to focus your precious mental energy only on what's actually within your control, eliminating the exhausting waste of fighting unwinnable battles. You've discovered that real confidence comes from evidence, not emotion, from building actual capabilities rather than hoping for magical bravery. Most importantly, you now know how all these practices integrate into an unshakable foundation that no external circumstance can breach. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or indifferent to life's beauty and pain. It's about developing the inner strength to thrive regardless of external conditions, to find meaning in difficulty, and to maintain your values and vision even when everything around you seems chaotic. The young merchant Zeno, who would become the founder of Stoicism, lost everything in a shipwreck and said it was the best thing that ever happened to him because it led him to philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire during plague and war, wrote thoughts that still guide millions of people today. Seneca survived exile, court intrigue, and political upheaval to create letters that continue teaching resilience across generations. Epictetus overcame slavery and disability to become one of history's most influential teachers. These weren't people blessed with easy lives. They were people who learned to build something inside themselves that external circumstances could never touch. The same tools that sustain them through their challenges can sustain you through yours. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can let your day be determined by whatever happens to you, or you can take control through these proven practices. You can react to circumstances, or you can respond from wisdom. You can be at the mercy of external events, or you can build the internal foundation that makes you unshakable. The ancient Stoics left us a gift, practical wisdom for building mental toughness that works just as powerfully today as it did 2,000 years ago. Now it's up to you to use it. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Vivu for more ancient wisdom that transforms modern life. like this video if it helped you see challenges differently. Share it with someone who needs to know that true strength comes from within. Most importantly, start practicing these principles today. Your future self, the one who faces tomorrow's challenges with unshakable inner strength, is counting on the choices you make right now.